This is the airbox I made for Frankenstein's engine. Carburetor mounts on the top here, air comes in the front, hot air comes in the back and through here. It's all very cool. I posted some pictures the other week about all of the bits that while I was making it, and I got a lot of questions on how I made this. So hence the title of the video, how did Donny do that? So I'll show you. First thing I did was find a piece of form board that would do the trick and drilled a hole in it. This is the size that we wanted, and I radiused this edge off, and I've also extended the center lines out so that when I put material that I need forming over the top, I can match it up so we can get the hole in the right spot. What we need to know is how big the flange needs to be. In this case, I decided this size is, I don't know, it's nearly 20 millimeters or something like that, which just happens to work out to be about that deep. Maybe it's a couple mil more, but anyway, that's a good start anyway. I started with a piece of material. This is just a bit of leftover, so for the purpose of this exercise, but it started life off, this one started life off very similar to this. I tend to do all the form work on a bigger piece first, and then I can cut and trim into the shape and size that I want. So that way if I went the other way around and made this up and then formed that, you could run the risk of having this formed in the wrong spot or something like that, or you could bust it up and then have to throw it all away. So form that over a bigger piece and then trim it down to what you need. This material is 5005, 0.8 millimeters thick. So that's just commercial grade aluminium. 0.8 millimeters is like 30 thou, 31 thou, something like that. And yeah, it's quite soft as well for forming. You can do this, you can form something like that in aircraft grade material, like 2024 T3, 6061 or the 7075 series. You can do that, but it'd have to be annealed before you do the forming, or you'd start off with the O condition and then heat treat it up to the temper that you want, like T4 or T6 depending. So I don't have an oven here in the shed for heat treatments, which is a bit of a bother. That would be very cool. I could do some very, very funky stuff if I had one of them, but there's no room anyway. So this is how we do that. All right, so we got the material. Again, there's my big center line that I've stretched out, and that will match into this center line that I've got. So that means I can keep all of the material over where I'm going to form. So I'm not having it like this and accidentally form in the wrong spot. What else? Very important that the hole, the edge, needs to be polished, needs to be really smooth. This thing's got a long way to stretch, so any little mark in there is enough to actually split it and crack it. Okay, so take the time to make that very smooth. Also, like I said here, we worked out how deep this needed to be. That works out how big this hole has to be. So there's our outside diameter. This is how thick it's going to be. So there's the outside diameter out here, like that. And then you measure in there, and that's the size that you need. Clear as mud, hey. On this one, I did not use a backing plate. Sometimes quite a lot of forming will end up with a piece of metal over the back here as well, just to support the whole material. In this case, I didn't need to do that because I could I was just working it down into the form block. Forming inside a circle is a lot easier than forming on the outside of a circle. I don't know, I find it that way anyway. Other people might dispute that. But anyway, that's what it's actually quite simple, really. So now we're all good to go. And all I did was I got my favorite ball peen hammer and just started tapping away. That's probably why the ball peen's probably a little bit on the harsh side, because it does leave marks in there that you try and dress out later on. It's a little bit on the rough side, but that's all I had at the time, and that's what I used. So obviously I'm using the roundy bit rather than this bit. I think I did a little bit of this, but mainly it's this. So we're working all this edge down. I went to the shop the other day and I found this cute little thing, and I thought, oh, that'd be fun. So I've rounded one end off, and I'm going to give that a go this time around just to see how it goes compared to my favorite ball peen. What we need to do, obviously this section here is going to be stretched the most because that's that now. All right, but we need, whenever we form it down, it all needs to be formed down at the same time. We can't just concentrate on this edge and then work our way back. We need to form the whole lot. Okay, so I'll try and set the camera up so it sort of makes sense. You can see what I'm doing. Let's give it a go, huh? Coming along nicely. So I concentrate on stretching this area, not so much in here. That starts to stretch itself. So we're trying to roll the material back onto the form block in here. So a lot more stretching to go in this section, but we're making sure that this lip, this edge here, is started and rolled over. I'll probably have to put it in a vise, or maybe I might be able to move it over there and stretch it and form it down from there. As I'm forming, I'm always keeping an eye on this edge because we're stretching it so far. This is where it's going to start failing through here. Like I said before, we polish the daylights out of that edge because any mark in there can induce a crack. So I'm just taking this out just to have a look. You can see there's a few areas like that one there. You can see it's not cracked, but you can see if I keep going, it's gonna fail right there. There's another spot right there. Sometimes I can just cut that bit out, you know, shave a mil or two out of that. But I'm not quite ready to do that yet. So I'm just gonna run a file around this edge and smooth it all up again, and then we'll go again. Right, I'll polish that edge again. There's still areas in there, you can sort of see in the video, there's a few little marks there that are areas of concern. Especially like that one there could be something. The options that I've got are I could anneal this material and go again. Basically it's probably work hardened a fair bit because I'm using a lighter hammer. Each blow that I'm making to make it form work hardens it. So because I'm using a lighter hammer instead of my favorite ball peen, it's got a bit more weight behind it and pushes the material further every time I hit it, whereas this doesn't. So that's a bit of an issue, and I'll probably work harden that. So I could anneal that, or I'll just keep, for the purpose of this exercise anyway, I'll just keep going and see how far I can go before it fails. The other option, once I form it a little bit further, I might be able to trim a little bit of that off to get the correct size anyway. So we'll see what happens, huh? Well, it did split. Well, it started to anyway. So there, and there's another spot somewhere, and there's another one. But it's only just started to split, and it just happens to be outside of the dimension I want. So I can actually trim that away and go again. So that's why we're cautious about forming it down slowly and keeping an eye on that edge. And as polished as that is, it still induces issues. Like I said before, I could have annealed it halfway along and it would have probably formed a lot easier. But I just wanted to see how far I could push it. So that's how far I could push it. What I'm going to do though, instead of trimming it down properly, is I'm just going to relieve that, just file that right into a radius, and we'll continue on. And then once it's all formed properly, I'll trim it down to the correct size. Okay, just relieved that with my round file. So I cleaned all the edges off again and did a couple more over there just for fun as well, I was looking at. So let's see how far we can stretch it now. Alright, trimmed down so there's no cracks, and still got a decent flange there for clamps to grab on. So now we can finish it off. And there we are, all formed up, trimmed down, polished up, good to go. See, it's not that hard actually. Like I said, forming on the outside of a circle is actually where all of the hard work is. This is a lot more easier than what you think. Yes, you got to be very careful about stretching this and cracking it, like we did. But like I said, watch where you're going, what you're doing, and you can trim that out anyway, hopefully, before if you get to it early. I think using my cute little hammer here probably work harden this material more so than with my other hammer, even though this one leaves, it's a bit harsh on the aluminium, but it moves it more. So sort of a catch-22. I'll probably end up using this more often than this because it just work hardens it. What I could have done was anneal it, is absolutely an option, and if I was doing this for realsies, I'd probably do something like that. But yeah, that's just an example of what you can do in a shed with a lump of wood, a plastic hammer or a ball peen, and a file. So you don't need too much specialized tooling to do something like that for your own aeroplane. Besides that, it's fun and it's worth having a go at. Yeah, there you go.